The power to control another person's mind? You know, it sounds like pure science fiction, right? But the real history is honestly so much more terrifying. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the decades-long, very real search to weaponize the human mind.
I mean, let's just ask it straight up. Can your mind actually be controlled? We've all seen the movies, the brain rays, the sleeper agents activated with a code word. But, beyond all that fantasy, is it genuinely possible for someone or something to hijack your thoughts?
And this quote, it really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? We all feel it, just instinctively, that our minds should be off limits. They should be private. But for decades, from secret government agencies to cult leaders, some very powerful people have tried to breach that final frontier. So today, we're going to separate the Hollywood myths from the chilling documented reality.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll tackle the mind control myth. Then we dive deep inside the CIA's infamous MKUltra program. After that, we'll decode the actual playbook for brainwashing. We'll look at that blurry line between persuasion and manipulation in our own lives. And then, we'll look to the future, at the mind's new frontier and how we can guard our own cognitive liberty.
Okay, first up, the mind control myth. Before we get to the facts, we've really got to clear away the fiction. Yeah, you can forget about those magical brain rays. The real story, the one that's been documented, is so much stranger and honestly, so much darker. It's not about some single magical device. It's a history of powerful institutions trying to weaponize the mind itself. And it really kicks off in the shadows of the Cold War.
Right. This deep-seated fear of being outmaneuvered by the communists, it led directly to one of the most notorious projects in U.S. history, Project MKUltra. Back in the 1950s, the CIA became convinced that their enemies had developed mind control techniques. So, what did they do? They launched their own top-secret and deeply, deeply unethical search for a truth serum.
The program got the official green light in 1953, and its effects were immediate and tragic. I mean, look at this. That same year, an Army scientist named Frank Olson died after someone covertly dosed him with LSD. For years, the CIA funneled money to fund these just brutal experiments on citizens who had no idea what was happening. And then, the real kicker, in 1973, the CIA director ordered most of the records to be destroyed, trying to just erase this whole ugly chapter from history.
The methods they used were just staggering. I mean, they were giving LSD and other hallucinogens to totally unsuspecting people. They ran something called Operation Midnight Climax, and yes, that was its real name, where they'd lure men to CIA-run brothels, drug them, and then watch them through one-way mirrors. They experimented with hypnosis, with drug-induced comas, and even electroshock therapy at 40 times the normal power, all in this ruthless, desperate quest to figure out how to break and control the human mind.
And the human cost of all of this was just devastating. This quote, it's from the son of Esther Schreier. She was a woman who checked into a hospital for postpartum depression, but unknowingly, she became a subject in Dr. Ewan Cameron's CIA-funded experiments. He put her in a drug-induced coma and used electroshock to try and depattern her brain. When she finally woke up, she didn't even recognize her own husband. She had to relearn everything, like a child. That trauma just echoed through her family for generations.
So in the end, MKUltra never found its magic mind control button. But by trying to break the mind, they accidentally uncovered the psychological principles of how it can be bent. And that brings us to what we now call the brainwashing playbook.
Yeah, the clinical term you'll hear is coercive persuasion. This isn't about some kind of mystical power. No, it's a systematic process. It uses abuse and deception to change not just what people do, but how they see reality itself.
And psychologists have pretty much broken this down into 3 basic steps. It's almost like a recipe. First, you have to get total control over the person's environment, their time, their activities. Second, you put them in a state of complete powerlessness, so they feel totally dependent on you. And third, once they're in that state, you systematically break down their old self to make room for a new one.
Psychiatrist Robert J. Lifton, he studied these kinds of environments, and he identified some key tools that are almost always present. Milieu control, that's just isolating you from the outside world. Demand for purity, that sets impossible standards so you always feel guilty. Sacred science, that makes the group's beliefs seem like the absolute, unquestionable truth. And loading the language, That's creating special jargon to build this toxic us versus them bubble. It's a whole system designed to take a person's reality apart, piece by piece.
And we saw a terrifying example of this kind of environmental power back in 1971 with the Stanford prison experiment. You probably know this one. Perfectly normal college students were randomly assigned to be guards or prisoners. And within days, the guards turned cruel and sadistic. The prisoners became passive, submissive, and totally distressed. The whole thing had to be shut down early. It proved a really chilling point. The right situation can literally overwhelm who you think you are.
So all this stuff brings the topic right out of the secret lab and into our daily lives, right? We're all being influenced all the time. But where do you draw the line? When does normal, acceptable persuasion cross over into something much more sinister, into unethical manipulation?
Well, the line really comes down to intent and method. Look, permissible persuasion tries to convince you by giving you reasons. It wants to engage your rational mind. But unethical manipulation, that's different. It uses deception to sneak past your rational brain, all to serve the manipulator's interests, usually at your expense.
Just think about this really simple example. A salesperson selling you an expensive watch. They might tell you about the movement, the craftsmanship, that's persuasion. But they also put it on a black velvet cloth under a super bright light to make it sparkle. They show you ads with impossibly glamorous people wearing it. They handle it like it's a sacred relic. None of that is about reason. All of it is designed to manipulate your emotions and get around your critical thinking. Now, these psychological tricks are more sophisticated than ever, but what's really changing is the technology itself. The tools are evolving, and they're taking us to a whole new frontier for the mind, where the crude methods of the past are giving way to something far, far more direct. The idea of directly stimulating the brain, it's actually not new. Early experiments showed you could use electrical currents to make a rat turn left or right. But what was once a crude lab procedure is quickly becoming an incredibly precise and powerful technology. So today, you've got companies like Neuralink developing what are called brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs. And the potential for good here is just immense. We're talking about helping people who are paralyzed control a robotic arm or communicate just by thinking. This tech could restore so much, it could truly transform lives.
And this quote, it just perfectly captures that incredible promise. Imagine it, communicating complex ideas, emotions, directly, mind to mind. It's a really beautiful thought. But it also opens up a profound and kind of scary question, doesn't it? If we can send our thoughts out, what's to stop other thoughts from coming in?
This new reality that's just around the corner means we have to start thinking about mental privacy in a totally new way. As this tech advances, we're going to need a whole new framework to defend our own minds. And that's where this idea comes from. Ethicists are now proposing a new human right for this new era, cognitive liberty. It is the fundamental freedom to control your own consciousness, to be in charge of your own thought processes, free from unwanted intrusion or manipulation. It's the simple but radical idea that your inner world belongs to you and you alone. So, I'll leave you with this question. We've gone from the psychological warfare of MKUltra to the hyper-persuasion we all face every single day, and now to the dawn of brain-computer interfaces. The project of influencing the human mind, it never stopped, it just evolved. So in this new world, what does freedom of thought even mean anymore, and how are we going to fight to protect it?